the horse mine at £30.15. So when there is no reply from the owner of the horse, it was held that although the offeree had intended to accept and sell at this price, his silence could not amount to an acceptance. So kita tahu bahawa berdiam diri tidak akan membawa maksud penerimaan. It needs a positive act. Okay, it's a positive act. So if we know that the methods for an offer, okay, in terms of communication, an offer can be communicated via writing, oral, and also conduct. It is similar to the acceptance. It must be the form of writing or oral or conduct, but the conduct must be a gesture that understandable by other people. So it needs uh, what we called it a conduct or gesture in order to show that we accept something. Silence, okay, berdiam diri saja cannot be amount to an acceptance. Okay. Maksudnya kalau kata if we don't want to talk on that day, kita tak nak bercakap untuk menyatakan kita bersetuju menerima sesuatu, but we still have to give a gesture. For example, we nod our head, okay, kita tundukkan kepala, kita anggukkan kepala to show that is an acceptance. Or we smile. Smile also can be a gesture. So cannot silence only, okay, cannot be amounting to an acceptance. This one just a recap on what you have here from the audio, and then under the acceptance also the discussion on postal rule and also instantaneous rule. Is there any question regarding this issue? Did you understand about the postal rule and also instantaneous rule, class? Faham ke?
Question.
Kelas. Mana seorang begini? Did you understand about the postal rule and also instantaneous rule? Okay, Ahmad Ghazian. What did you understand about the postal rule and instantaneous rule? What is the difference between these two rules? Ahmad Ghazian Mujibur. What did you understand about these two rules? Postal rule and instantaneous rule. What's the distinction? What is the difference?
Sorry, Doctor.
What is the difference? Okay, what is the difference? Apa perbezaan? What is the difference between postal rule and also instantaneous rule?
Postal rule is like through telephone, which calling someone over, and then for the instantaneous rule is kind of like talking to someone in the meantime, isn't it?
Okay. Is there anyone else want to give what is the distinction? Okay. What is postal rule and also what is instantaneous rule? Limweni? From my explanation in audio, what did you understand about these two rules? Limweni? Come on, class. What happened ni? Semua keluar masuk ni. Limweni? Postal rule like use some communication tools. Okay. Then instantaneous rule? Okay, the postal rule and also instantaneous rule, these two rules been set up under the Contra Acts 1915. Okay. Postal rule, we refer to mail. Okay, mail. Right now we have electronic mail, email, but for the postal rule refer to we post a letter, we post a mail. Mungkinlah sekarang ni kita dah tak post surat, tapi kita mungkin juga post surat in terms of we have to reply something, we also still have to send a letter. So postal rule, okay, the difference between postal rule and an instantaneous rule is that the cycle in terms of a complete contract, where is the contract being made? For postal rule, we know that when an offer been made to a person, okay, that person will make an acceptance. Okay, so under the postal rule, when the acceptance been made, the contract is concluded. Under the postal rule, okay, when an offer been made and the acceptance also been made by the offeree, so the contract has been concluded. Okay, for example, A offer something to B through a letter, okay, and then the letter arrive B and B accept that offer and reply that letter. Once B posts the letter of acceptance to A, the contract has been concluded. Even the letter did not reach the offeror, okay? Did not reach A. That one is postal rule. Jadi konsep postal rule ni maksudnya once penerimaan telah pun dibuat oleh penerima, okay, bila dah postkan surat tersebut, okay, so it is out of the control of offeree anymore. Penerima pun dah tak boleh nak control surat tu sampai ataupun tidak. Okay, because maybe there are several things happen to that letter. Okay, letter tu hilang ataupun letter tu lambat delivery of that letter to the offeror. Jadi bila mana penerimaan telah pun dibuat, saat di mana penerima postkan surat penerimaan, maka sudah terbentuknya kontrak pada waktu tersebut. The offer and acceptance has been concluded there. Meanwhile, for instantaneous rule, the cycle must complete for both parties. An offer, A make an offer to B, okay, B know about the offer, B make an acceptance, and the acceptance must reach A. Must reach A. Maksudnya satu tawaran dibuat oleh A kepada B, tawaran tersebut sampai pada B, B buat penerimaan, surat yang menunjukkan bahawa telah berlakunya penerimaan oleh B mesti sampai kepada pengetahuan A. The acceptance must reach the knowledge of offeror. The cycle must complete between both parties. That one is instantaneous rule. So it could be applied to our email situation nowadays, electronic mail. Okay. Jadi for a case, again, for example, if the question come to you, shows that there is clashes of date there. So it is up to you whether you want to choose postal rule or instantaneous rule for an answer. But you have to remember, you have to bear in your mind that when you choose postal rule, you have to pick Byron versus Van Tienhoven as your supported case. Okay, to support your argument, you have to choose Byron versus Van Tienhoven. But if you choose instantaneous rule, you have to choose case of Antos versus Mal Far East Corporation. Jangan silap case lah. Okay. So kalau kata ada case, ada soalan dibawa pada you. Okay, for example, the fact like case of Byron versus Van Tienhoven. Okay, in this case, the defendants have firm in Cardiff, make an offer by a letter on 1st October. 1st October, make an offer to claimants, okay, who reside in New York. And on 11 October, the claimants received that letter and accepted immediately by telegraph on that day, 11 October. Without the knowledge of claimants, on 8 October, the defendant had sent a letter of revocation. So you nampak clash date dekat sini. 1 Oktober tawaran dibuat. 11 hari bulan Oktober penerimaan dibuat. So we know that if referring to the poster rule, 11 October, the contract has been concluded, okay, between defendant and also claimant. Okay, without the knowledge of claimants, okay, the defendants has retract the offer, revoke the offer, where the defendants send a letter of revocation on 8 October. But that letter only received by claimants on 20th October. Surat penarikan balik tawaran tadi pada 8 hari bulan hanya diketahui oleh claimants, okay, pada tarikh 20 Oktober. So the court held that a good contract was formed on 11 October. So the court here refer to the postal rule to decide the case. Postal rule means that once the acceptance be made by the offeree, then the contract is concluded. The acceptance is made by the promisee, the contract is concluded on that day. As long as the offeree did not receive or did not know about the revocation letter on 8 October. But if you think that, okay, that the decision was unfair, the decision was unfair to the, for example, kalau kata dalam situasi yang you merasakan, it is unfair to the offeror. Bila mana 11 Oktober dikatakan sebagai tarikh menunjukkan bahawa telah wujudnya kontrak. Okay, the 11 October later must reach the defendant's knowledge too, in your opinion. Okay, so if you think like that, you have to choose instantaneous rule as your answer. When you choose instantaneous rule, you have to pick Entos versus Mal Far East Corporation sebagai case untuk menyokong hujah you. So it depends, okay, so it depends, it's up to you to answer a case which have clashes of date, sama ada you nak guna pakai postal rule or instantaneous rule. Maybe some of you think that it is not fair, okay, if the offer must reach the offeree, so the acceptance also must reach the offeror. So you want to use the instantaneous rule. So you have to use Antos versus Mal Far East Corporation to support your argument. Is that clear, class, about the postal rule and also instantaneous rule? Jadi kalau kata ada soalan yang berkenaan dengan tarikh, you nampak ada clashes of date, so pilih satu jawapan saja. Either you want to use postal rule or instantaneous rule, but you have to make sure that the case to support your argument, you have to choose the right case. If you choose postal rule, then you have to use Byron versus Van Tienhoven. But if you decide to answer, okay, that question based on instantaneous rule, then you have to choose Entos versus Mal Far East Corporation as the case, okay, to support your argument. Jelas, kelas? Semua faham? Alright, okay, then look at the consideration. Okay, I just highlight what is the important point under the offer and also acceptance, because I'm planning for all of you to have a test on offer, acceptance, and also consideration. Okay, so I just highlight what is the important point under those topic. And again, for consideration, a minute. Okay, so for consideration, okay, there are several sections you have to highlight. Okay, you have to know there is no such definition of consideration in Contract X 1950. Section 2D is more to elaborate. There are 3 types of consideration. Okay, under the Contract X 1950, highlight about the 3 types. Yeah, 3 types of consideration. And the consideration could be something which is valuable, or it also can be referred to rights, duties, and also responsibility. Jadi balasan ni mungkin dalam bentuk wang, it could be monetary or it could be goods, is barangan, and it could also be tanggungjawab, dan juga something yang sometimes we cannot see it, but we know that we have to bear. Okay, maksudnya sesuatu yang kita perlu tanggung lah. For example, in terms of kesusahan, berkorban dan sebagainya. So that one also could be consideration. And under section 10 subsection 1 of Contract X 1950, highlight that in a valid contract. Okay, in a valid contract, a contract that can be enforced by court, the contract must consist of lawful consideration and also lawful object. And under the section 2D of Contract Act 1950, highlight about the 3 types of consideration. In my audio, I cannot remember whether did I discuss how to read this wording under the Contract Act 1950 on 3 types of consideration. Ada tak saya bagi tahu? Kau tak dengar lagi audio? Manakan that one saya cakap tak? Ada. Okay. So I have explained again on that. Okay, so under the section 2D, there are 3 types of consideration, i.e. past consideration, executed consideration, and also executory consideration. So you don't have to memorize this wording. Okay, when at the desire of the promisor, the promisee, or any other person has done or abstained from doing, or does or abstains from doing, or promises to do, or to abstain from doing something, such act or abstinence or promise is called a consideration for the promise. That one is the wording under the Contract Act 1950. That's not my word. This one has been stated under the Contract Act 1950 as per section 2D. Okay, section 2D ni highlight berkenaan dengan 3 jenis consideration: past consideration, executed consideration, executory consideration. Okay, so for those who hear the explanation in the audio, how to read this one? This one just to recap apa yang you dah dengar lah. Kelas. Aida Safitri. Macam mana kita nak baca ni? Nak menunjukkan there are 3 types. Come on. Saya ambil wifi juga lah untuk active participation ni, semua tak nak jawab je. Kaisani Hasanah.
Yes, Doctor.
So macam mana kita nak baca? How we can read this section to show that there are 3 types of consideration.
Okay, first, when the desire of the promisor, the promisee, or any other person have done or abstain from doing something such as at or a or promisee is called a consideration for the promisee, for the
Okay.
promise.
Okay.
And
Good.
then for second, when the desire of the promisor, the promisee, or any other person does or obtains for doing something such as act, abstain, or promise is called the consideration for the promise. And then the
Okay.
third is when the desire of promisor, the promisee, or any other person promise to do or obtain for doing something such act or abstain or promise is called a consider for the promise.
Okay, good. Thank you, Aisani. So it is clear. Okay, from this okay, from the reading by your friends just now, it shows that there are three types of consideration under section 2D. So it refers to the past consideration, balasan lampau, executed consideration, balasan tersempurna, and also executory consideration. So for past consideration, the formula is that action come first, promise later. Executed consideration. Ano? Nice, sana. Executed consideration? Macam mana? Past consideration, action come first, promise later. Executed consideration?
Yes, doctor.
So for executed consideration, formula dia apa? For anyone?
Based on
Nak
first
jawab.
action later.
For past consideration, action come first, promise later. So executed consideration dia terbalik je, otherwise. Kita dapat dengar I. Okay, so executed consideration, promise come first, action later. Okay, kita balik dengan past consideration tadi, otherwise of past consideration. And executory consideration is an exchange of promise, macam biasalah. Okay, that one is three types, okay? Three types of consideration under section 2D. And the meaning of consideration can be seen under the case of Kuri versus Misa. Okay, what is the definition of consideration based on the common law? So we use this definition. Okay, since under the Contract Act 1950, there is no such definition on the consideration. It just shows the three types of consideration. So consideration can be a valuable consideration in the sense of the law, may consist either in some right, interest, profit, or benefit accruing to one party, or some forbearance, detriment, loss, or responsibility given, suffered, or undertaken by the other. So you have to bear in your mind that doesn't mean when we talk about the consideration, it just only refer to something which has a value in form of monetary, for example, in goods, but it also can be involved something which is relates to rights, duties, and responsibility, and also suffering. Okay, so under the consideration, okay, topic of consideration, the issue of past consideration, this one also can be a question. The issue of consideration, because there is conflict of a decision between English law and also Malaysian contract law. The English law does not recognize past consideration. Okay, they stated that past consideration is no consideration, but under the Malaysian contract law, we understand from the section 2D, Contract Act 1950 just now, okay, section 2D just now, that there are three types of consideration. Past consideration is one of it. So Malaysian contract law do recognize past consideration and accept it as a good consideration. So you can have a look at the case of Kepong Prospecting Limited and SK Jakartaisen and others versus A.E. Smith and Marjorie Smith. And the agreement without consideration. And we know that the principal rule is that for the simple contract, there must be a consideration, required consideration there. But okay, for contract by deeds or formal contract, do we need consideration class? For contract, for formal contract or contract by deeds, do we need consideration? If we go to the first slide, refer back to the first slide. The first slide stated that only simple contracts require consideration. So simple contracts, I mean, it's not an official contract. It's not contract by deeds. Simple contract. Contracts that we have every day. That one is a simple contract. So for contract by deeds, do the contract by deeds require consideration? If you look at this segment. Petang-petang ni nak bagi otak cik sikit. Okay, bila Syamil cakap no. It said that only simple contract. So for contract by deeds, okay, contract by deeds, the contract which is an official contract that there is signature of both parties, there is signature of witness, stamp duty, ada stamp of commissioner of oath there, then that contract, okay, no need of consideration. That's why in the what happened in case in Malaysia when someone has been given 2.5 billion through the contract by deeds, official contract, there is a no issue. Okay, bila kes dibawa ke mahkamah sekalipun, since the transfer of money of 2.5 billion through a contract by deeds, okay, an official contract, jadi kita faham bahawa kontrak tersebut no need of consideration. Okay, so you boleh faham sendirilah okay, siapa yang melibatkan 2.5 billion ni. And then okay, agreement without consideration. We go back to the agreement without consideration. So principal rule-nya for simple contract, all agreements need consideration. Tapi ada exception to this one. Okay, so please listen again on the issue of an agreement made on account of natural love and affection between parties standing in a relation. Dengar lagi sekali lah the explanation on perjanjian yang dibuat berdasarkan hubungan kasih sayang dan juga ikatan di antara ikatan dan juga hubungan rapat di antara kedua-dua belah pihak membolehkan suatu perjanjian tersebut tidak memerlukan consideration. Okay, for example, if a father pass a land to his son, for example, jadi tak menjadi isu sekiranya anak tersebut nanti tak bagi apa-apa pun in return kepada ayah. Ayah bagi tanah, ayah bagi kereta, tapi anak tak bagi apa-apa pun in return, tak bayar balik. So because that one is an agreement made on account of natural love and affection. Okay, but there's one case to highlight, the case yang saya masukkan, case of Tan Soo Sim, Chan Lo Kyong and others versus Tan So Kyu and others. Okay, this one, even we said that there is a, even we look at the, from our own eyes and our own perception, that there must be an affection and also natural love and affection, also nearness between the adopted mother and also adopted children. But when it is contradict to the custom and practices, the transfer of property must strictly follow the custom. must strictly follow the custom. Jadi kalau kita lihat kes Tan Soo Sin, Chan Loh Keong and others versus Tan Soo Kyu and others, the similarity of the concept where adopted son or adopted children cannot inherit from the adopted mother in this case. Jadi kalau dalam Islam sendiri pun pewarisan harta untuk anak angkat tiada pewarisan harta untuk anak angkat. So if you want to protect the situation of adopted children, we have to make a hibah. Hibah means that a gift, hadiah. So hibah also have a process. Okay, nowadays many people dah mula buat and also alert about the concept of hibah to protect certain people. Sebab ni kalau kata we know that the situation bila meninggal harta akan dibahagikan. So kalau kata harta, ada certain harta yang memang tak nak dibahagikan selepas berlakunya kematian, maka harta tersebut boleh diberikan kepada orang lain dengan cara gift, dipanggil hadiah. Konsep tu dinamakan sebagai hibah, H-I-B-A-H. So it also have ada standard form and also procedure for transfer of property under hibah. Sekarang ni banyak ramai orang lah yang buat buy an insurance and then put it as hibah. And also ASB pun, duit dalam ASB pun also can be put as hibah, but it must fill certain form, okay, in order to make sure that hibah follow the standard requirement under the transfer of property law. And under the consideration also, we discuss the issue of adequacy. Okay. The issue of adequacy of consideration. Okay, so the court will not entertain about the issue of adequacy. Okay, adequate atau tidak, adequacy or inadequacy of consideration is not under the power or under the control of court. Jadi as long as okay there is a consideration, ada value kat situ walaupun sedikit, but the court have no right to interfere in terms of adequacy of consideration. Cukup atau tidak adalah bergantung kepada mereka yang involved in that contract. Okay, so apa yang saya highlight ni, apa yang you dah dengar, okay, I just nak lihat sama ada you are clear on the concept or not lah. Is there anything that you want to ask me? Okay, right now it's 2:48. Sempat lah nak sentuh intention. Okay, maybe in the next class, okay, we will discuss on intention. I already shared the notes on intention. Maybe you can have a look before we have class next week on intention. Okay, so for offer, acceptance and consideration, everything's clear, class? Clear. Jelas. Okay. So for the topic of offer, acceptance and consideration, okay, I plan to have a test on this topic, but not decide the date yet. Maybe we can have a test. We have a test after next week. You all punya mid-sem break bila? Mid-sem break ni bila? Sekarang ni week ke-6 dah, right? Itu week 5. Selalunya student alert dengan mid-sem break. Bila you all punya mid-sem break? Saya yang tak sure you punya mid-sem break. Week 8. Mid-sem break week 8. So right now we are in week 6. Week 6. So you want to have a test before or after mid-sem break? Nak bercuti tanpa baca apa-apa ataupun Nak buat test before mid-sem break or after sem break? Open to you. Decide. Kalau lepas mid-sem break tu nak kena study lah. Kalau tak mid-sem break tu nanti boleh free mind lah. Tak payah nak fikir pasal test dah lepas test. Which one? Tanya pun bagi. Tanya tak. Yang offer ni, tawaran dia buat ni. Semua pun senyap cakap. Yun, Fakrul? After, because next week we have 2 tests. Oh, next week ada 2 tests. Okay, so we will have your test on week 9. Week 8 kan? Week 8 you will mid-sem break. Okay, so week 9 lah. Okay. So we decide to have your test after mid-sem break. Okay, that's all class. Okay, since you said that you have class after this, so we cannot continue the discussion on intention. Yes, it's the attendance has problem. Semua orang tak boleh masuk attendance.
Yes, doctor. We write the metric number, but it said email not valid.
Email not valid. Okay, I try to check again. Okay, maybe ada yang email tu I tak offkan mode dia. Okay, never mind. Okay, I try to adjust. Okay, that link first. Nanti I bagi tahu you kemudian. Okay, kalau tak I bagi snapkan QR code lah. Okay, since ada problems, I can relate to the. I share with you QR code in WhatsApp groups. So, but okay, students today, 31 students are in. Three number participants. Apa dia? Ana cakap metric number part just replace with email.
Ya, doktor. Dekat metric number part tu, kita just tulis email then boleh submit.
Boleh submit?
Yeah.
Okay. Letakkan metric. Okay, kalau kata dah boleh submit, so I don't need to make a QR code for today lah. Kan? Dah boleh? Semua dah boleh? Okay, so for those yang ada problem untuk sign in, okay, please inform me. Okay, the link for attendance today in your e-learning. Okay, so thank you everyone. Okay, please petang nanti participate lah. You jawab salah ke betul ke? I tak marah pun. Takut pula nak jawab. Yun langsung tak bersuara dah sekarang. Mana Fakrun? Fakrun ada ke? Fakrun Azim? Ada jawab tapi might ada problem. Alright. Okay. Okay, so thank you everyone. I'll see you all next Wednesday. Okay. Assalamualaikum.